Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So class is back in session. This is our fourth class for Romance 101. And today we're going to be talking about alien and paranormal romances. So let's go back to school. We're going to teach you all about alien and paranormal romances. Before we get started with that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Remember, we do give free books away here on our channel. So you want to be a part of that. So just make sure that you hit that subscribe button. All right, so let's talk about this. So this is more my niche than this is Mandy's. I read far more alien. Mandy only does it when I force her. And I read more paranormal too. Poor Mandy only reads that when I force her as well. So,
no, I've read some vampire on my own.
You have, but there's been a couple that have been part of the Convincing My Bestie series that we do. But these ones both fall under the sci-fi subgenre of romance, and they can get weird or not. Sometimes they can get really weird. So I just grabbed a couple of what are we calling it? Definitions for everybody so that we're all on the same page. So for paranormal romance, this has included elements beyond the range of scientific explanation. So this is a romance where there's things that happen that we can't explain with science. That's how you get the weird Bigfoot. I recommend not reading that one ever again because that one was weird. But that's how you get some of the, you have your vampires, you have your werewolves, you have your shifters, you have other things. It's often kind of tied in with fantasy sometimes, but fantasy takes place in a fantasy world and it's a little bit different. So they all kind of fall under the same umbrella, but paranormal is just a little bit different. And it says that it combines romantic elements with supernatural or fantastical elements. So that is paranormal romance. And then for alien romance, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but that is where one or both of the main characters is an alien. And most of the time it takes place on an alien planet, not on Earth. Sometimes they do take place on Earth, like in the future, but not typically. It can get weird. Yeah. For me, alien romances are one of those things where I'm kind of picky. Like you can go from having an alien that looks very humanoid to having weird stuff out there that's just, you can't even imagine it. And I tend to stay more on the humanoid side than going extremely weird. There's a hair floating in front of my face. Then go extremely weird. It's just my preference, but this is all in what you want to go for. So just be warned. It's also hard to find really good alien romances. They, again, get weird really fast. So I have my preferences. So anyhow, so we have some recommendations for you. All right. So I'll start us out because you do have an alien or two though, right? Do you have one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So alien romance. Normally we don't like to go for the extremely popular ones, but we will for this one because I think everybody knows about this series. This is the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. This series has gone on for so long. There has been 2 spinoffs. This series has like 22 books in the series, and then the Ice Home spinoff has 17, and then there's 2 books out in her new Ice Clone series, but they all take place on an ice planet with aliens. So there's a reason why it's so popular. The first book in this series is Georgie and Vectal's book. It is darker than the rest of the books in the series because she didn't intend on continuing to write this series. This was going to be a one and done type of thing. And then everybody loved it so much they continued on. But this is about Georgie. She is abducted by aliens, by bad aliens, because there's bad and good aliens here, in the middle of the night. In her, she lived in the South and she was abducted in her little skimpy pajamas. And she wakes up in this cold, holed in an alien ship, and she's in there with a bunch of other girls. There are some things that happen that are pretty horrific, so definitely check trigger warnings on this one. I don't know that you necessarily need it for the rest of them, but on this one you do. And they decide to fight back against the aliens, and when they do, their spaceship crashes, and they are left in this cold, barren ice planet. Georgie is the one who is injured the least, and she is the most outgoing of the girls, and so she is elected, we use the word elected, as their leader, who gets to go out and see if it's inhabitable. And when she does, that's when she meets Vectal, and she kind of passes out, and then she wakes up with an alien having fun between her legs. So, they're big, they're blue, they have horns, they don't speak our language. There's a big language barrier in this first one for quite a bit of the book, but they have to get what we call a Kui or a Cootie. It's a symbiote on this planet in order to survive, because the air is toxic after a certain amount of time, like it's several days. And so his big goal is to get her that Cootie, as the girls call it. And then when you get that, you resonate to who is supposed to be your perfect mate, and you got to be together. So I love this whole series so much. I reread it throughout the year all the time. I have my favorite Christmas one. Yeah. So, okay. So that's my first alien. Man, do you want me to go to the next alien, or do you want to tell us about your alien?
You just keep going. We can end with mine because mine's a little more normal.
They're humanoid. He's just got a tail and some horns, and he's blue. Oh yeah, and he's got appendages. Okay, anyhow. All right, so the next one. This is my other favorite alien romance. This is by Zoe Draven. This is Captive of the Horde King. She has another one too that is Desire in His Blood, that I recommend that one as well. But this is the one that first brought me to Zoe Draven before anybody knew about this series. It's somewhat popular, not as popular as Ice Planet Barbarians. But this is about Luna. And years ago, we had left Earth, and we were looking for inhabitable planets because we had destroyed Earth as a people. And so Luna's family had traveled to find this, wherever we were going to go. And one of their spaceships had to land on this planet, the planet of Drakkar. And all the humans were put kind of in settlements, and they're not treated very well. They're like illegal aliens living there on this planet. And you have these horde kings of the planet, and I think there's 7 of them, and they each have their own horde. This is kind of like a mix between Game of Thrones Dothraki dudes and aliens. So they have their own hordes where they are migrant, they move around, but there's a lot of rules on this planet. Like, the humans can't set fire to the land because that is burning their land, and they believe their goddess lives in this land. And so in the beginning, Luna's brother, that's what he does. He burns the crops to try to make them, so they'll come up harvest better next year. And the horde comes to their village and wants to know who did that, because that is a slight against their goddess. And she stands up for her brother, and she says it was me. And she's highly expecting to get killed or beaten or whatever by this horde king. And the horde king decides, no, I'm going to take you. You're going to be mine now, and you're going to be my queen. And he takes her to his horde. And this is their story. There's, I think, 7 or 8 books in the series. So good. Love this series. They're definitely more humanoid looking guys, but they're a little different, but they're not blue. So there's that. They're just very tan. So, but it's very primitive. I think you'd like that one. I really do. I love those 2. Those 2 are my favorite among my favorites. So there you go. Okay. Next. All right. So then the next book that I have is more, this one's going to kind of rot your teeth. It's more sugary sweet than icky, or than suspenseful. So I don't want to say icky, but you know what I mean. So this is called Blind Fall, and it's by Amanda Milo. This is a part of a series, but I haven't read the other series. I've only read this book in the series. But this is about Sana, I think her name is, who's our heroine, and she is abducted from Earth. She is blind. Luckily, they abducted her seeing eye dog as well. And so she has her dog with her. She is put on auction with a bunch of other girls from Earth to be auctioned off as brides or slaves or whatever. And at this auction, Breslin sees her and he's attracted to her. There's something about her. He ends up bidding on her. He's not there to bid on people. He's there for something else, but he ends up winning her, being the highest bidder, and he takes her to his farm. He has an alien farm, and he decides he's going to help her get home. And so until that happens, though, she works the farm with him, and it is a very slow burn, and it is very sweet. He's ultimately a cinnamon roll, but this one I would suggest for one of your first ones if you're really just starting to get into the alien romance. This one's a little bit more sugary, but I did enjoy it quite a bit. So there's that one.
Yeah, I got so excited while you were talking about aliens, I kicked the camera.
I see that. Okay. So then my last alien rec, for me anyway, is by V.K. Ludwig, and it is Sign Here for Horns. Now this one is, to me, is the most fun. It has a lot of comedic elements in it. And so this one is about Lily and Jax. So Lily had been abducted at some point in time from Earth as a human woman, and she is like on this planet where they have rescued these women who have been abducted. They can't take them back home to Earth, but they've rescued them and they're no longer slaves. And so they're living on this planet, and they're being taught how to farm. And so Lily needs help with her farm. And so her best friend talks her into going to this guy who works at like the port to get someone to help her for her farm. And they have slaves. These other people have enslaved other races. And so, or not even, they're more like indentured servants, I guess is what you would call them. But she goes to get one out to purchase this person to help her with her farm. And so that is where she meets Jax. So Jax is actually from a race of guys who have been trained to please women. And on their land, or on their planet, the women are scarce and they take harems of men. And so these men go to husbandry schools to learn how to treat women. So when he sees her and she ends up choosing him, and it's hilarious the way she chooses him, he thinks she's choosing him to please her sexually. And that is not what's happening, which when she gets him to the farm, there's a lot of miscommunication, and there's a lot of funny things that happen because of that. So there's that one. I really like that one. It's a series too.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So your alien rec.
Okay, so my alien rec is very, very alien light.
Mm-hmm.
So this is called Hold by Claire Kent, and this is about Rihanna and Kane. Rihanna, this is like, they live out in the solar system, I guess. There's all these different planets. And she has committed a crime, a very, very petty crime, but it's not tolerated. And she's thrown into a prison on a prison planet. And basically, there's nowhere to escape because that's what this planet is. There's like this place that they hold them, and there's no way out of there. And even if you figured out a way out, you're stuck on this planet. And the advice she is given just as she's being dropped off there is basically find like the strongest guy you can and give yourself to him so he will protect you. And so that is what she does to try and survive. And that's where she meets Kane. He has the only cell that has a locking door. They're like kind of free roaming. Their food comes down like basically like a lift, like escalator type thing, or belt, and just kind of moves by them. And if you are lucky enough to grab food, yay. And if you don't, oh well. It's not a humane treatment place at all. And so she goes to Kane and basically offers herself for his protection, and he agrees, and that is where their romance starts. So while this does have like those alien elements, Rihanna and Kane are pretty humanoid. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so this is a great way to start if you're wanting to read outside of your typical romance genre, but you maybe aren't ready for blue aliens.
Yeah. And I've read the rest of the series. There's 4 books in that series. I haven't read the second one because the second one did not interest me, but the third and fourth ones did, and they were just as good. So definitely worth reading. So, okay. So let's switch gears from our aliens and we're going to talk
Yes.
about paranormal.
Okay, so my first recommendation is going to be the 3 series by Kristen Ashley. The first book is, and I have to always look at this to say it correctly, Until the Sun Falls from the Sky. This is about Lucian and Leia. And Leia has a superior bloodline, and her whole life she has been prepped for going and being with the vampires and being one of their concubines. Her family takes great pride in their like name and their bloodline, but she is actually an older heroine because she's put this off for as long as she can, and now she has to go and be with Lucian. Lucian puts her up in this like fancy house and gives her all the things, and he decides to break protocol. He's actually married to a vampire, and he decides to live with his concubine, which he is not supposed to do, which kind of starts a whole thing, which really is the driving force to the whole series. So the second book continues on, but this one is Shifter. And this is, sorry, I'm trying to look at my next page for my notes, is With Everything I Am. And this is Callum and Sonia. Callum is a wolf, and he knows that Sonia is his mate. And Sonia keeps having these dreams, and she has this like heightened sense basically, but she can't quite figure out what's going on because she's a normal human and she doesn't understand the whole like it would be like you and I if somebody just was like, "Hey, I'm your mate and I'm also a wolf." Like, see what I'm saying here? So he ends up saving her when she gets attacked, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm the king and you're the queen." And then that book kind of goes from there. And even though they're shifters, that's like very much connected to the first book. And then the third book ends the series and wraps everything up that they're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So as for like a reading paranormal, even though we're vampires and shifters, we're dealing with like completely, it feels like a completely normal world, other than the fact that somebody's a vampire and somebody's a shifter. And most people don't know about the vampires and the shifters. So it's pretty seamless. So if you're looking for a start in that world, this would be a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you just dive into the crazy stuff like me, and we just keep going.
Okay.
So my first rec is called Luxuria, and this is by Colette Rhodes. So this is a monster romance, which kind of it goes into the paranormal. So this is about Ophelia, and she's born into a family of hunters that hunt these creatures called shades, and they keep humanity safe. They keep the humans safe, and we don't know about them, but they're there. And so Ophelia is born into this family. She's supposed to be a hunter herself, but she's kind of always been fascinated with these shades, and she might have already written like kind of like some fan fiction type situation about the shades because she again has this fascination with them and she's attracted to the idea of being with them. And so when her group of hunters finds out about this, she is exiled. And so that all happens at the very beginning of our book. And then at one point, the king of the shades comes and says, I need a mate. And they decide that they're going to arrange a marriage between a human and this king of the shades who lives in a different realm. And she is chosen, she is brought back into the fold because they don't want to just give any of their hunters to this guy. They're going to give the reject. And so she is, she gets to live her best life. She gets to marry one of these guys. Not only just marry one of these guys, but the king of the shades. But there's also some nefarious things going on. There's obviously, there's way more to the plot than what I'm describing here. And I really liked this one. I'm not a huge monster romance person, but I really enjoyed this one a lot.
Okay, so my next rec is also a vampire book, but this is a little more light-hearted vampire. So this is Sanguine by Sierra Simone. And Bastien is a vampire and he just wants to vacation. And so he goes on this vacation. He's rented a vacation house and he notices this guy shows up. And he can see him on the camera. And he is very good looking. And so he decides to go ahead and answer the door. And it is Aaron. And Aaron is very interested in Bastien and what Bastien is because he saw Bastien in an alley feeding and he's just very intrigued by it. And that is where this book goes very quickly. It's a very short read. It's a lot of fun. So if you're just looking to kind of dabble into the more fun side without this serious, like trying to like change the world vampire tone, this would be a great one to give a go on.
Okay. So then my next book is Shifters. So we've talked about these a few times, and I'll try and link any videos that we have below that talk about the shifters and paranormal and sci-fi books. But this one is about Talus and Dane. This is called Cold-Blooded Alpha. It's by Eve. Yes, Eve, not Eva, Eve Bale. And so this is about, again, Talus. And she has been raised in a pack by her uncle. And the uncle has been very cruel to her. The pack has been very, very cruel to her. For whatever reasons, they're not good to her at all. And so her uncle arranges a marriage or a mating. There's a mating ceremony, and she is I can't remember how it happens, but she is Dane's mate, or she's arranged to be with him. Bailey, stop. You've got to be quiet. No squeaking the toy. Anyhow, so she's arranged, she gets taken into his pack. He takes her home, but he treats her quite a bit like a servant. He is not very good to her in the beginning either. It's very angsty. It's very I loved the story. I loved seeing her come into her own and put him in his place. And I liked seeing their relationship develop. And I liked her getting to, become the queen of the pack type situation, but she had to get there first. So it's quite the story, but I did enjoy it. And I do believe this is a duet. There's a series, but the first two is this couple. There is other woman drama in this, but I'm here for other woman drama. So works for me.
Okay. So my last book recommendation starts off a new series, not a new series, an entire series called Blood Alliance series. And there are 6 books in it, and it kind of has a little bit of the Christian Ashley feels with like trying to change some things. But in this book, vampires and lichens now rule the world, and humans are slaves. So we're in Christian Ashley's books. People didn't know what was going on. Most people didn't know, but here things have flip-flopped and the humans are just blood slaves basically. And so in this story, Darius buys Juliet, who has been trained for the past 22 years on how to be a good little, what do I want to call her? Human blood slave, basically. So she knows how to please him, and she is trained to be ready to be fed on. And she also realizes that this could end her life as well. So it's not really a pretty picture that has been painted here. So Darius buys her at the auction, takes her home, And he basically has a plan to change things. And he tells her a little bit, but he also has to have her go along with how the world is supposed to be. And so there's some back and forth between the two of them. Like, do we trust him? Do we not trust him? And can she like give up what's been ingrained in her for 22 years to change her mindset and please him? So it's got a lot happening and it's not super long, so you really have to like be on point with like keeping up with the story. And then there's 5 more books that are going to kind of work out eventually what Darius is putting into motion, I guess you could say.
And I've read all the books that are out except for the novellas. And we're still working on getting, like, the plan is still in play.
Okay, so it looks like this is supposed to be a 6-book series with 1 novella, but the 6th book hasn't come out. And the 5th book was published almost 2.5 years ago. So hopefully that 6th book comes out, but you've read the rest of these.
I have. I've read everyone
And
that's
so
out.
you feel like this is still a good series to read. Just the overarching theme hasn't been solved, but each book has that couple wrap up.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that it's still good to read, even though I don't know when we're going to get that last book. It doesn't bother me that I don't know what's happening in the big overarching theme. I want to see the couples situations all cleared up, and that happens in each book. So I'm fine with that. So yeah, they're good. So
all right,
guys. So that is Romance 101 not shifters, Paranormal and Aliens. Now you can see that we're starting to get a little bit further into these bigger tropes or these other tropes, and so it's all downhill from here. So next week is Taboo, which is going to be fun. Mandy and I both love Taboo, so make sure you turn in next week for that.
All right, so give us a comment. Have you tried the alien or paranormal genre in romance, or is this something you shy away from? Do you think you're going to try it? Tell us all the bookish things. Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us, and Wednesdays through the rest of the year for Romance School 101.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video, and class is dismissed.